Joining us now, former economic advisor to President Trump, Steve Moore, and former Labor Secretary nominee, Andy Puzder. Both of you, it's good to have you on.
Welcome to Washington.
Oh, thank you. I'm enjoying it. Can you imagine if I was here full-time torturing both of you? All right. So here's the thing. Steve, The Hill, it's now again reporting that Democrats are making contingency plans to replace Biden on the 2024 ticket. We're going to get to that bombshell news about Hunter later in the show. I mean, Alyssa Slotkin, Tim Ryan, Democrats are saying they want to just get rid of the entire leadership. But you've got one reason why everybody's upset. It's retirement account problems that you found, right?
Yeah, so I think most of the viewers of this show know that the average worker has lost about $4,000 in income because inflation has been so far outpacing wages. So then we decided, well, let's also look at what's happened to people's savings, their retirement accounts. There's something like 120 million Americans who have 401k plans. That's their retirement nest egg. And what we found, Liz, was that the average account has lost about $34,000. That's a lot of money to lose.
It is.
And so that means that they're not going to be able, maybe they're going to have to work more years before they can retire, or it may mean that they won't be able to necessarily have the down payment for that retirement home they were hoping to buy. So it's not just people's incomes that are getting clobbered by inflation, it's also people's savings. And one other quick point. Seniors are the biggest losers when you think about it from Biden's inflation because they've spent their whole life building up their savings and now it evaporates.
It's like more than $2 trillion vaporized, right, under Biden. I mean, so we've also got this. I want your reaction to this. Former President Obama warns Democrats, stop with the political, quote, gobbledygook. Stop with the cancel culture. You're a buzzkill. But they're in focus on kitchen table costs. But guess what? Democrats in the White House, like Pete Buttigieg, ignored Obama and continued with the gobbledygook. Watch.
I care most deeply about my family, my kids, work that gives me satisfaction, not being a buzzkill. Democrats are, right? It's like, sometimes people just want to not feel as if they are walking on eggshells. And they want some acknowledgement that life is messy and that all of us at any given moment can, say things the wrong way, make mistakes.
The president said this week that the economy is both strong as hell, but also if there is a recession, it'll be very slight. What exactly is the forecast? Well, look,
forecasting is by its nature something that is a little bit uncertain. What we know is that...
That's political spin. But the San Francisco Fed has put forward estimates that between 0.3% to 3% of percentage points in recent inflation is due to fiscal spending.
In other words, not most of it, right, by those numbers.
It's not nothing. So to argue that government spending isn't a contributor here doesn't fully play out.
Inflation rate month to month was just an inch.
Andy, it's up like 100 miles. I mean, by the way, Obama did political gobbledygook. Obama was the one putting people on edge, right, and dividing people. But it's interesting he sees the writing on the wall and says, Democrats, you got to knock it off. But the Democrats are making the midterms about abortion and Trump.
Well, this is the problem. The problem is that the Democrats' positions on these issues are gobbledygook, which is why we are, and they have a hard time not talking about it. I mean, this is why we are where we are. Biden said he wanted to transform the economy when he was running for office. Well, we went from an economy with economic growth and everybody was working and wages were going up and inflation was low to an economy where none of those things is happening. We're having serious, serious problems. People can't afford to buy food and they can't afford to buy gas. Well, that's more than gobbledygook. Those are serious problems. It's not up an inch, it's up a ton. And if he would acknowledge that, if he would just adopt policies that built up the supply side, cut taxes, deregulate, focus on domestic energy production. My God, these problems would go away quicker than he can imagine. He just won't. He just can't do it.
And what Andy just said, it's a supply side problem. I mean, now you've got Pete Buttigieg saying that the president is laser focused on inflation. Now, after 18 months of it going up straight up every month, now he's focused.
It actually tells you a lot about the absence of any talent in this White House. That the person they're having to talk about the economy is Pete Buttigieg. I mean, my goodness, he's the one who's in charge of trying to
fill a pothole in Indiana.
Right. And, the supply chain problems were his responsibility. Remember, he was going to fix that.
Yep.
That's not fixed. You have so many problems still in terms of getting goods and services on the shelves, which is contributing to inflation. You can't get a rental car anywhere. You can't get a new car these days. So, I mean, it just shows you they're completely out of touch. And I agree with Andy. I mean, you need to do the supply side, but also, just as important, you got to cut government spending, because that's what caused the problem.
You know, but Democrats are, to your point, they're running away from talking about their government spending, right?
Because they don't want to.
They're running, they're running away. They're not talking about their stimulus checks. Right. They're not that they cheerleaded for. I mean, Gavin Newsom wants to do that. But, you know, we're going to show that in the beginning, Democrats were all about all this stimulus checks and money, but now there's silence about it. Andy, this feels like the most reactive and least strategic White House in modern U.S. history. I mean, it never has a plan for anything. Afghanistan, supply chains, the pandemic, inflation, right? It's like gimmicky fixes after the fact.
Yeah, it's either they don't have a plan or they have this ridiculously bad plan. I mean, this is really simple. They call it the law of supply and demand for a reason. That's why they call it a law. If you bring down demand, like the Fed is trying to do now with interest rates, and you build up the supply side, you'll have what Ronald Reagan had. You'll have an end to this financial crisis. If supply and demand are equal, there's no inflation. Inflation's causing the problem.
Reagan and Trump was doing it, to a degree, George W., to a degree. But they've so politicized it like it's anathema, like it's like, you know, diabolical
Which is why they can't do it.
Economics, right?
I mean,
they've so politicized that part of the economic debate, right, Steve?
This isn't complicated. They came in, they spent $4 trillion. And by the way, one of their lines this week is, Biden came in during this economic catastrophe. That isn't true.
That's not true.
I mean, the economy is actually starting to boom under Trump in the last 6 months. We had really solid growth. We had the vaccine coming out, and they screwed it up, actually. If they'd just done nothing, I think the economy would be in wonderful shape.
I mean, the equivalent of Germany, right? In spending. And by the way, since 2019, it's $7.5 trillion. That's France and Germany.
Yeah. Well, even Trump spent too much money.
What do you say?
Well, he did. But for some of Trump's, it was the pandemic. I get it.
Of course.
But the pandemic ended. And Larry Summers, Jason Furman, Steve Radner, all Obama and Clinton era economists came out and said, do not spend this money. Do not do this. It wasn't just Steve Moore and Andy Puzder and Steve Forbes. They did it anyway.
They did it anyway.
And then they told us it wasn't happening. It was transitory, and then it wasn't their fault. And now they're trying to make up things that they're not going to fix it with what they're doing. They can't fix it. It's gobbledygook.
Way to close it out with gobbledygook again. Andy Puzder and Steve Moore. Terrific. I like being in studio. It's fun with you guys.
It is.
Bring the red carpet next time. No,
Absolutely.
I'm just kidding. All right.